We pull it to his feet, and we respond.
Let's go, let's go, let's go!
I'm just worried about you.
They are sick, they are frightened, and they are alone. I'm not abandoning them.
You are the very definition of a leader. It's time everyone got to see it.
CFD paramedics.
Can you hear me, Adriyan?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly. How are you?
I'm amazing. How are you?
Well, that's good to hear. I'm doing all right.
Is that a golden globe behind you?
I wish it's just a regular globe. With it reflects nice in the light because it just kind of it's like a marble globe.
Really cool.
Yeah, and it was my sister, so I got it as a present. So I just kind of stuck it in there, and I guess it's appearing in a lot of my Zoom interviews, so it's becoming popular. Where are you at currently?
I'm in Los Angeles right now.
Very nice. How's everything out there?
Oh, it's great. It's 88 degrees today.
Oh my God. I'm in Chicago, and
cold.
it is like 39, I think. So,
Yeah.
you're about like literally more than double in temperature than we are out here.
I'll be back soon enough.
I know, right? You're gonna be doing some Chicago Fire stuff, aren't you?
For sure.
Oh, well, let's jump into it then. In that case, I was curious about it. So you're coming on to the new season. Tell me, how did that kind of come about, and were you a fan of the show? Because here, this is a big show around these parts. You know, people love it in this area especially.
Yeah, I mean, I can see why though. I mean, our AMBO truck looks exactly like the AMBO trucks for Chicago. You know what I mean? Like,
you never know which one's being filmed and which one's real. Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, the audition process was really cool. It was via self-tape.
Okay, so they're doing self-tapes for that now. Interesting.
Yeah. And I've auditioned for Chicago, like, you know, the Chicago shows for like the past 2 years.
Oh, so you've been at it.
Yeah. And I've always self-taped because they're in Chicago. And I think it's Jonathan in New York, I believe, the casting director. But I've always self-taped for them, and they always like, yeah, she did great, good job. But I got this one, and I said, you know what? It's a medical one. This is gonna be fun. I'm just gonna have fun. Yeah. So I do the self-tape, and I have fun. And you know, we get the call back, and they give me the notes, and then I get a writers meeting, and they I was like freaking out, right?
Virtual writers meeting.
Yeah, like she just called, and she was like, hey, let's talk about it. And I was like, did I do something wrong? And she was like, no, I just want you to do really well. Like, if you have any questions, I just want to make sure you're good.
Yeah.
So she called, and we talked, and we got like backstory and stuff. And then we did the last audition, which was a producer session with like all the high up producers via Zoom. So that was.
How is that like now? I mean, these days, like these would be always face to face, and it's a different feel when you're in the room. You know, you get the vibe of the other person. How are these Zoom like self tapes and writers meetings and just all these things that used to be done and you get used to doing in person? Did you get adjusted to it? How is that like now?
Well, my background in acting, I started in Atlanta, and in Atlanta they do a lot of self-tapes. Like, you have to learn how to self-tape properly if you're going to be an Atlanta actor. And that's where I got my roots at. So I've always been a really good self-taper. Like, look, random fact, my reps call me the self-tape queen. I
That's a good thing.
Believe a show via self-tape. Most of the stuff you all have seen me in, like Atlanta, Brockmire, Superfly, self-tape. So I'm used to auditioning via self-tape. I love it. It's my favorite.
You don't have to go, especially if you're in LA. Oh my God, you have to get into traffic and be, you know, heart pounding if you're gonna make it in time or not. Yeah, I know how that is.
A lot.
Yeah.
And you know, I just like the creativity you get to have with self-tape. So, you know, that part wasn't nerve-wracking. But the Zoom, the new thing we're doing is auditioning live via Zoom.
Oh, interesting. And live. So it's not taped or anything. It's not prepped. You're just going at it. Wow.
going at it. And what if the Zoom glitches, or what if I don't know, just there's so many things that can happen. So and then also like how I'm looking at you here. When you act, you don't look at the camera. But for Zoom, I don't even know what the protocol is. Do I look at that person?
Yeah, do you look above the little screen thing on top of the laptop, or to the side, or right into it? It's just these nuances, that end up being big, actually, because you don't know how it's being coming off as it's being recorded on the other end, technically, Yeah. Wow. Okay, that's an interesting process. So through all that, you finally got the call and you got it.
Yeah. It was really, really nice. I felt good about my audition, but it's nothing like you getting that call and your reps being on the phone and they're like, "You booked it."
Yeah.
So it was just a really beautiful moment.
So this is going to be a character we're going to be seeing on the show. It's not a one-off or anything like that, right?
No, she's in there.
There you go.
She's there.
Anything you can share about her? I mean, obviously, people have grown up. I mean, in a sense, over years with these characters. We're talking about, a season that's going on so many years a run. You kind of they become family to you if you're watching it all the time, and you resonate with a lot of these characters. What does it kind of feel like being the new kid in a block, in a sense, and just knowing the show and the story too, because it's important, because it's been going on for a while. So you're kind of stepping into a product that's working, and it's like stepping into a team that's been like winning constantly,
I think the thing that I try to do is I try not to operate in my ego, and I think that's something that you have to have in order to step into a well-oiled machine. Like, let your ego go and just be humble and be ready to learn and jump in and hit the ground running, because they're not going to slow down for you.
Mm-hmm.
They've been going at this speed. This is the speed they go. So you got to hit the ground running, but you have to be humble and like, I do things this way. Well, this is how we do things here. You know what I mean? Yeah. Just be fluid, be open. That really helped.
How do you know how long you're going to be out here for? Or I mean, because it's one of the thing about this show that's great, as we mentioned earlier, is that it actually shoots here. It's not like, oh, we're doing exterior shots and then it's in a sound stage in LA or something. Like, it is literally, I've walked past the sets multiple times myself. So this is as authentic of a show based on the community and everything as it gets. So is this going to be your first time in Chicago, or what are you prepping for? Because it's winter, it's coming. So just a heads up for that.
I'm going to go get me a North Face.
Yep, for sure.
I need Canada Goose.
Canada Goose too, North Face, any of those will work, because you're going to need one.
Canada Goose. I heard it's a necessity. I'm prepping for it. I don't go full blown, like, put on a heavy coat or something like that if it's not super, super cold. Like in LA, I'll put on a parka at 65. I'll wait until it's about 35 in Chicago to put on a parka. Yeah. So I'm trying to acclimate myself. I'll be there for a while, I believe until the spring at least.
Oh, wow.
And, I'm going to prep myself for the winter. I love winter, though. That's my favorite season. I love snow. So I'm excited for those things. And I know everybody's like, oh, how could you? And I'm like, well, that's just where my joy is. Don't try to steal it. But I'm excited for it. It's just going to be cold. I know that.
It's going to be cold. Here's a heads up on that. So it's going to start getting really cold kind of after the holidays, after Christmas. Like January and February are actually the worst. November and December are still all right. So you're probably not going to even see snow till probably late December or after that, after New Year's too. But then when it hits, it's shut down pretty much in every sense. But if you're going to be here around the holiday time, it is, I'm telling you, I lived in LA the last 2 years, and I'm from Chicago originally, so I'm back here for now. But it is like the holiday time. It is beautiful. It's going to feel like a different world for you. So many decorations, so many things to do, zoo lights in the city. I mean, it's going to be an awesome like month of December. So with so many cool things to see. So if you're going to be around there, that's going to be awesome. I'm happy.
Oh, I'm going to be around and I'm going to take it all in.
Yes, very good.
Singing Christmas carols.
There you go. I love that. Wanted to jump off of Chicago Fire for a second. I read your a little bit in your bio. So you were a lab, like a guru in the lab. Like you have a med degree in a sense. So you're going to go for a PA too. I mean, you went to school for science and medical stuff. So you know your stuff. I wanted to get that backstory on you because you never hear that all the time. That's kind of a rare thing.
It's different, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to be a cardiothoracic surgeon
Wow.
from the age of like 5. And then when I went to college, I majored in physician assistant.
Mm-hmm.
And while I was doing that, the dean of the medical laboratory science major, I took, what class was it? I took hematology, and I'm really good at heme. Actually, like that was like one of my disciplines when I was a scientist.
Interesting.
So I took hematology. She was like, "Yeah, you're really good at this. You should look into being a scientist." And I was like, "Nah, I'll be a PA. No worries." And then I took parasitology, and I was really good at finding parasites.
Unbelievable. Who knew there's like things like that, unless you're delved into that life too. Wow.
Yeah. So I took up that major, and then, I got the certification and stuff like that. And then I became an actor.
How the hell does that happen? Seriously. So here you are, you have a pretty much guaranteed career, especially if you're a lab. I mean, there's always work there. You're going to always find work. You have the most stable, probably profession. And then you go into the most unstable profession. What were your parents thinking and family? Because I can only imagine like, no, this is not a good move, probably. Now it is, looking back at it. I mean, you made the right choice. That's you trusting your guts. But at the time when you decided that, what was kind of that process too? Because that's a big jump right there.
Yeah. So at first, my mother is always super supportive. My dad was more like, why do you want to do that? I mean, don't you make good money? Don't you want stability? And I was like, I want to do this more, I think. It just kind of happened that way. And it was like, I got on set and I loved it. Like, I loved it. It wasn't that I hated being a scientist. It just wasn't my passion. And I could be at the lab for like 2 hours and I'm like, oh, what time is lunch? I can be at a set for like 15 hours and I'm like, cool, what's the next scene? Like I love being there. And that's how I knew after I was there for 15 hours, I knew that this is the place for me because I was still happy being there. Mm-hmm. And it was like a joy that I never had at work before. So I just took the leap from there. I was like, I got to follow what makes me happy. And, my mother always told me that. So she supported me and I did it. And it paid off, but my Lord, it was hard.
I mean, that's a big
jump. There were times, like, because in California, for example, scientists can make 6 figures. That's question. Like, you make great money. And I kind of like left that and then was poor.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I know that lifestyle. Yeah.
It was a weird time period where I was in the lab working, or I was working as an actor, but doing a lot of guest stars. I had just done like Atlanta and Brockmire, and that stuff was coming out. So I was getting more auditions, and people were like I was starting to be more recognizable to casting and things like that. But the lab, they didn't want me to come into work. They kept not scheduling me. Oh. So while people were seeing me on these shows, they're like, she's got all the money. And I'm like, no. And then they're like, you should go back to being a scientist. And I'm like, can you guys please give me some hours? And they're like, we don't have any. And it was just like this. And it had to be God because it was just a weird time period where I was trying to go back to the lab because acting wasn't giving me the money I needed. And he was just like, no, go a little further. And then I booked my first series rag. And
unbelievable. I mean, imagine your path in life if you just didn't pursue kind of your dreams and stick with them. That's unbelievable. How your life could have changed in so many ways. Wow, that's always crazy to kind of hear, like one decision can kind of affect the course of your life and how did you even get into acting in the first place? What was like the first audition? What kind of even prompted you to try it? Was there any kind of moment that you remember that sparked that thing while you were working in labs?
I was working in the lab and I had moved to Atlanta to sing. And I was working with a record label and they were grooming up an artist as well as me. And they were like, hey, we would like you to be, so we can like both like, get your audiences up. We want you to be in his video, but you're going to act. And I was like, I don't know how to do that. Like, no, just try it. And I was like, I'm also not shaking my butt on the screen. And they were like, no, you don't have to do that. You have to like pretend you're his girlfriend, pretend he's getting beat up. And I was like, okay. And then we did it. And I was like, oh, that was fun. And they were like, you should just try it. You're in Atlanta. So many things shoot here.
Yeah.
You should just try it. So I started like looking into some classes, and then I found a mentor. And he gave me the like groundwork for theater, like Stanislavski, Stella Adler. And he just taught me the most basic things that I still use to this day. And the main thing that I remember from years and years ago, the first thing he made me do to learn acting was to pretend that I was brushing my teeth.
Really?
Yes. And then he was like, do you do that when you brush your teeth? Really? Do you do that?
Nope.
And I was like, no. He was like, well, do it. And then he kept making me do this for weeks, just brushing my teeth.
And what was that? What was behind that?
Oh
Like, what was his thinking behind that? What was he trying to accomplish with doing that? I'd never heard of that method.
Unlock the imagination and allow yourself to live privately, publicly. So it allowed me to be real and be present in whatever surrounding I created, even if that surrounding, if I could be like at the Staples Center brushing my teeth, like, what's that going to be like? You know what I mean? And make it real. So it just helped me really stop pretending to be an actor or stop acting and really like living.
That's the tough part. That's the toughest part, is that distinguishing part of like, ooh, I need to act. I need to, like, especially you're reading, scripts or auditions, and like, ooh, this needs to be emphasized. And you always try to go for the punch and emphasize it, and it doesn't come off natural a lot of times too. But wow, it's that getting out of your head, that you don't have to always be big or do things, there's so many ways of doing something, emphasizing something in the script without really making it big or loud or screaming, yelling. There's different ways of tone and all that. So that's so interesting to hear that was a method to kind of get you out of your head and just be natural with it, which that's what it comes down to at the end of the day.
Yeah. If you watch Gianna closely, you'll see it. In all my characters, honestly, I try to make them very nuanced. So there's very small, subtle things that you'll see that are natural, that we do in natural life, but I don't make them bigger for TV. It's just a small thing, whether it's an eye thing or like a little hesitation, like just something. And I'll hit that. Maybe go back and watch episode 1 when Gianna is talking to Cruz after the first call. Mm-hmm. And that's an example of something really subtle. But yeah, it helps with nuances.
It does. And it separates you too. It kind of like people who watch usually pick up on, everyone's kind of got their thing. You look at even big time, stars, Ryan Reynolds got his thing, you kind of just know that he's a giggle, a laugh, a look, it's always that trademark in a sense that you have, but it's natural, that's what separates and makes it unique.
Yeah.
I'm curious though, since you worked in a lab and you have that experience, we got this news today about this COVID vaccine, like effective. What do you think as that in that lifetime of yours? I mean, any thoughts on that? I mean, since you have some professional expertise there too.
I never made vaccines though. my like realm of medicine was when you go to the doctor and they say, I'm not feeling good. And I cough a little bit. And they're like, okay, we're just going to run some tests. And they take your blood and they tell you pee the cup. They give all that stuff to me.
You're the one that does that. Okay. Well, that
all to me, and I run the test and I say, he has a cold. It's not cancer. He has a UTI or it's completely normal. I'm the one that's doing that. Or when people come in and they need blood transfusions and they need their blood cross-matched, I was doing that. My main specialties are hematology and blood transfusion or transfusion.
Yeah, you work with blood. That's all blood related, which is a ton of different things you can do technically with that, because technically every time you get a needle, it's blood that's getting drawn out, It's funny because like there's so many people who are always like scared of needles. That's another thing, to even get their blood drawn in the first place.
Oh, I don't draw it though. I don't draw their blood.
Yeah. Did you ever like kind of wonder when you're doing all these tests, like did it ever pop in your head? Like, I wonder if this person was another, like I'm always blown away kind of whenever I get my blood drawn and stuff like, oh, you're not afraid of needles. Like it's such a common thing. I never understood that, how people are so afraid of needles. That's like a universal thing.
It's always the people like covered in tattoos too.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Pretty much. That's
And
hilarious.
actually, in your blood work, you can tell like if someone's afraid of needles, it might take them longer to do the draw, which means the tourniquet might be on a little longer, which could alter their results a little bit slightly. So there are
That's
ways.
right. Yeah, it could happen too. See, that's all. It's all interesting. It's so cool that you have these two different lives that you live in a sense, and perspectives and views. You know, and I always felt like for actors or directors, any sense, anyone that's creative, like it's so great to have like an actual real life. It's not like, oh, I'm an actor day and night. Like that's my life. You know, that's not your life. You're a person first and a human first with experiences. You know, that's what you bring into your work because you've done these things. Have you thought about like that sort of thing, like being a normal, in a sense, non-actor person with like a real job and career, and then becoming an actor, how much that helps you out having these real life experiences in your work?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I remember, I remember complaining about this to my mentor, John Singleton. I was complaining to him. I was like, I don't know why I had to do with this lab stuff. Like, if I was meant to be an actor, I would just be acting. That's it. And he was saying to me, well, you know, Adrian, maybe you're doing all this because it's a part of building for who all the characters you need, giving you the life lessons and the life experiences that you need. You have things to draw from. And I was like, okay, but I'm just ready that. So yeah, it definitely helps you have a genuine place to pull from. I mean, you know how hard it is to express an emotion sometimes that you've never felt.
Yeah.
Because how do you know how to express it if you never even felt it? So
Exactly.
it just goes hand in hand with like genuinely making things real again.
Did you
Even though I don't drink, it's quite easy for me to play drunk pretty well.
Hey, the key about playing drunk is not to play drunk. You know what I
Don't
mean?
play drunk.
Yeah, because like that's no one does that when they're drunk. The drunk is when you try to be the most normal when you're drunk.
Right.
Yeah,
That.
exactly.
Small
It's
stuff like that.
It's the nuances. It's not the boisterous falling over thing. Like that's not playing drunk. Because anyone who was drunk or been drunk, they try to act sober, you know, and that's the key about it too. I always thought like that's like a pitfall for like actors, is the acting drunk, because everyone just tries to go off the ledge with like crazy antics, tripping over, but like that's not technically the truthful way of doing that.
Right.
You mentioned John Singleton. Are we talking about the John Singleton being your mentor? Really?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Tell me, how did you meet him and connect? I mean, you talk about mentors. I mean, that man is an icon in so many ways. Tell me how that whole thing came about, and how did you meet him, and to have that as your mentor? I mean, that's immeasurable.
I auditioned. John was doing a show called Rebel, which was on BET, and I had gotten a self tape for it, and I sent it in.
Of course,
and I did like a Vimeo where you could see the views, and nobody had viewed it, and I worked really hard on it. So, I kind of DM'd John, and I said, "Hey, I did an audition, and nobody watched it. Can you just watch it for me?"
Bold.
He wrote me back and said, "Yeah, send it to me."
Wow. Can you imagine? You never thought you'd get a message back, right?
Right. Never. I was
Yeah.
just like, I need to do something. But yeah, he wrote me back and was like, it's good. It's good. We have somebody in mind already. That's probably why nobody has like been reaching out, but it's good. Yeah. How are you? You're really bold. You're really bold. And we became cool off that. He was like, you got balls. I like that. So yeah, and then it just, went from there, just learning from him. He was an amazing person.
Unbelievable. I mean, you heard so many great stories about him. You didn't hear anything bad. I can't remember anyone ever saying anything bad about that man. How many years did you kind of know him, and was he your mentor for you? How long of a time did you kind of get to know him?
John and I met probably in 2016. 2016 until he passed.
Wow. Did you remember your kind of like your final kind of interactions and conversations with him?
Yeah, he used to call me the mad scientist or Pretty Eyes,
That's a good nickname. I
but
like
more
it.
so the mad scientist. Um, so I texted him and he was like, "What's up, mad scientist?" And I had an audition for Snowfall, and I was like, "I had an audition for Snowfall, went cool. So you probably get a tape later. How are you?" We were supposed to link up and get sushi, and he was telling me how he was in the works of writing a movie,
Mhm.
and we would get together soon. He couldn't get it together that day,
Wow.
and yeah, then like a couple of weeks later, he went. I found out that he was in the hospital, and I was trying to reach out, and I couldn't get a response. And
So
that
it
was,
happened so quick. Did you even have any inkling or knowledge of, I mean, that's so crazy, how you're close to someone, sometimes you just don't know or can, and then it comes as a shock to everyone, really.
yeah, no, none. I was always on him because I'm in the medical field, and I'm always like, go to the doctor.
Yeah.
What's wrong? Why are you doing this? You need to take this or something like that. So yeah, well, that was a part of every conversation we had. I'm fine. I'm working out. I went on the boat. I was rowing all day. So yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. I mean, so many ways, but I mean, for you to have that sort of thing, not only in your career but in your life. I mean, very few people probably ever had that opportunity to say that their mentor is John Singleton, and I'm sure it made you not only a much greater performer, but even as a person with his life knowledge and experience and everything. That's so unbelievable. Wow. I appreciate you sharing that with me. I think that's super cool to know, and obviously for you to to have that experience. It just wow. That's one of those moments. I'm sure he would be proud of you and seeing you where you've gotten and where you're going. Your career is starting to rise and rise, and and it's definitely proven right to your going with your guts. Which is another story in this whole thing. It's like in this industry where you need to bet on yourself, and there's so many people saying no, and you're not good enough. That's a whole nother thing. Just like that perseverance, do you kind of look back on that ever and think about like how much strength you need to have as yourself to keep on going? Because like this industry's so tough, and sometimes it can eat you up in so many ways, and LA's a tough town. I know that personally. But when you look back on that sense, I'm sure anyone who's achieved something has to be proud of themselves for pursuing that.
Yeah, I mean, everyone would tell you it's a marathon, not a race or not a sprint. And it's really that's genuinely what it is. Like if you just keep working hard and going and not giving up, something's gonna give. It's going to give. If you throw up a shot and say you were terrible at basketball, if you throw up 1,000 of them shots, one of them is gonna go in. Eventually, you just have to keep throwing up the shot.
Yep.
So yeah, and then once you make it, you're like, yes, I didn't give up, and you're so happy. So that's definitely how I feel. I mean, 2019 was like one of the years, like in the beginning of the year, I was like, I give up. I just suck. I can't do anything. And literally, my first series regular is Light as a Feather. It came as a audition right after I tested for Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist.
Mm,
And I got very, very close on that. Like very, very close.
wow.
And I didn't get it. And I remember crying. And then I got like an audition the next day and I was like, I don't want it. I don't want to act anymore. And then I do the audition and I booked it. So it's like literally, I don't know why, but it's right when you're ready to give up.
It
Do it one
always
more time.
happens, right? I totally agree with that. Just when you're like, there's a lot of fate that goes into that, because there's some things you can't control in this weird industry, and it kind of validates why people pursue it in a sense too, because right when you think it's over, or like you see like everyone else doing great, like, oh, they're booking work, they're getting work, and you're just like, the world's forgotten about me. Like, am I crazy for thinking that I'm actually, I'm in this industry pursuing it if I'm any good? And then something happens. It's just this unspeakable thing, that you're always kind of at the edge and ready to
Mhm.
jump, and then you get reeled back in. That is so crazy.
Literally.
it's hard to explain in so many ways, but I've experienced that personally. I do acting too, but I do obviously a lot of hosting and that sort of stuff. And it just like, you see others and you kind of get bummed out, like, oh, I'm happy for my friends, but damn, it's like, am I ever going to get that shot? Am I ever going to get a chance? And when you get close to something, it's like reassuring, but then it's like, I was so close, but yet I didn't get it, but then when it happens, man, that's a whole other feeling, that reward and like, okay, I got to keep on going at it.
Exactly. Don't give up.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. And just like, and you lived it too. So that means something too, that you've been on both sides of it, the struggle and going through it and taking the chance and then reaping awards. I'm so happy for you, and just like happy in general for people who pursue that and get that feeling of reward. Cause there's nothing better when you go through all the hard times, and there's a lot of hard times and sacrifice too. And then when you reap the rewards, that's big too. So for me, I was in LA for 2 years, and like all my family's in Chicago and everyone's out here. And, sometimes I have a few good gigs and then nothing for a while. And it's just like, man, I'm sacrificing a lot being out here away from friends and family, not knowing people, as many, having close people to you. And it gets lonely, and especially out in LA too, if you're not from there. But when you get those moments, it kind of reassures you, like, wow, I sacrificed a lot, but there's a reason for it, and that's just that feeling. I can understand that.
And just so everyone knows, my first acting gig, I was an extra.
Mm-hmm.
I was an extra.
Wow.
On a Tyler Perry show. So just persevere.
Yeah,
literally,
it can happen. It's like a lot of people who have made it and stayed in this industry. It's the long game. If you're at it for so long, eventually you're going to get some sort of opportunity, but the problem is a lot of people just can't stick it out because of, maybe the rejection or pressures or money or whatnot. It's the longer you're there, I think at some point you're going to get your shot. I think that's the positive you can look at it.
You definitely will get the shot, but the key is making sure that you are prepared
for the
when
moment
that shot comes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't sit around and be so sad and throw yourself a pity party, so much so that when you finally get the opportunity, you're like, shit, what was that? What was I supposed to say? What was I supposed to do again?
Mm-hmm.
What did I want? Like, you have to make sure you're ready.
Yeah, no, you got to be ready for the moment. I like putting things into like sports terms. It's like you're the backup quarterback, and then you never know when there's an injury happening to the starter, and then you got to be ready in that moment to step in and lead the team. And there's a good chance that moment will happen. But if you're ready for it, you're ready to go. In that sense.
Yeah.
Wow, this is I just love talking to people who are who experience life and have these experiences, because it really is something that you can't, it's invaluable, to kind of go through life and experience these things, because you're kind of ready, you prepare yourself for the future, for to have these experiences as a performer and going through the disappointments and the rewards. I think it just kind of builds your character in a way that many things don't.
Yeah. And also, I just want to say, I know that I've never hosted, but from what you've expressed, like how it's hard,
Mm-hmm.
You're terrific. So easy to talk to, great energy. Really, please don't ever give up, because you're really great.
I appreciate that.
And appreciate it.
I appreciate that. The one thing I have to offer is just being myself. That's why I always said, I'm like, I'm not going to try to be something I'm not. And I guess the one thing is I get excited talking to people and hearing their stories, and my energy is natural. I don't have to fabricate any of that stuff. So, sometimes I just come off as maybe a goof or whatever, but it's just me, at the end of the day. So I'm not for everyone, I guess, in certain works, but at least, I feel like at the end of the day, if you can look in a mirror and say that you were yourself and you were honest to who you are and truthful, you can't be too disappointed with no matter what outcome there is for anything, because you never know what goes behind casting or any other things. But like, hey, I'm at least you owe it to yourself to be truthful and honest with who you are. And I think that way, you kind of live a happy life, no matter what happens. I got to ask you, you look so exotic. I'm kind of curious if there's what's your kind of ethnic background and mix? Because I mean, you look absolutely beautiful in so many ways, but just you have this exotic look since first time I saw you. I'm just kind of curious.
I'm Black.
Wow, look at that.
Through and through.
And beautiful as it gets. But you do have light eyes though, right? I'm trying to see through the.
Yeah, they're green.
Are they they're not contacts, right?
No, they're my eyes.
Beautiful. I mean, I love the hair too. So I was like, when I saw kind of your pictures and stuff, I'm like, wow, this girl looks very exotic. I wonder if there's like a big story behind, like ethnicity wise.
I'm
Right?
Black. That is Black.
Look at
But
that.
Black is beautiful, and it comes in so many different colors, shapes, and
Absolutely.
sizes and variations. So
Yeah. And be proud what you are, in so many ways. I love that.
for sure.
I am so happy to see you on the show. I'm excited. I mean, that's obviously being from Chicago. That's such a show. I've auditioned too, by the way, for Chicago PD a few times. I got really close to, and Chicago Fire, so I'm kind of familiar with the process. But when I auditioned, it was still like the in-person thing. So,
Okay.
I didn't do the self-tapes. Maybe it's what I should have done, but it's cool. I kind of understand that world and the people who work there. So I'm just thrilled for you. And I think it's going to be a huge stepping stone in your career and just the start of great things to come. So hopefully if you're around, I mean, I'm in the area,
Awesome.
any recommendations or anything, I'm always here.
Yes. I'll be asking you about food.
Hey, that's one thing I know. One thing about quarantine, I'm like being back here. It's like, damn, the food's so good. You're kind of eating a lot. I packed on a few pounds. That's why right before the interview, I was at the gym. I'm going to the gym now every day, working it off. But the food's tough to resist out here.
Oh, it's good.
It's very good.
Thank you so much for this. I really appreciate your time.
Oh, I'm thanking you so much for taking the time to talk to me. And it's just so much fun to get to know you a bit and connect with you. So hopefully we get to connect real soon too.
Yes, of course.
Thank you for sharing everything, Adriyan.
No problem. Have an amazing day.
You too. Stay safe and healthy.
You too.
Bye-bye.